teachers while riding on take lessons and trains or while waiting at bus stops or train lifeguards stated to report suspicious behavior, inactivity, larger disturbances, and any other crimes and safety problem.
Hello, everyone. This is Pleasant Evenings Book Club. This week, we're going to be reading a play. As we're always expanding, we're always exploring new frontiers in Pleasant Evenings Book Club. We decided to have a couple of pleasant evenings with Anton Chekov's Uncle Vanya this week. Joining us today, as always, is Roberto speaking, joined by Hannah. You want to say hi?
Hey there.
And Corbin.
Hi, listeners. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I don't know if you want any background on Uncle Vanya. This was the first written, but in its final form, the second put on of Anton Chekov's famous four last great plays. It first came on as a play called The Wood Monster, where
the Wood Demon, actually.
The Wood Demon, yeah. It bombed horribly. He shelved it. Didn't put anything on for 5 years until he had a breakthrough with The Seagull, directed by Stanislavski, and the rest is history.
Right. Yeah. I can give some broad strokes of the plot if you want. Yeah. So essentially, it's it's set in like the Russian countryside. I'm not sure like exactly where. I didn't get like a good sense of like what region in Russia. I was kind of wondering that. They mentioned Kharkov. I don't know if that's the same as Kharkiv. I think Ukraine would have been part of Russia at this point, right? So I don't actually know. I that's where I was envisioning it. They referenced Finland.
Yeah, but, at the time Finland was Russia.
Yeah. It kind of adds up to me. But so they are in the countryside, and essentially there's this estate, right? And it's owned by this scholar whose name is incredibly difficult. Give me just a moment. I'm going to call him Alexander because his name is Alexander
Serebryakov.
Serebryakov, yeah. He's got the hardest name for sure. For sure. He I guess was this scholar, but he's sort of gotten old, and essentially like his life's work is by some arbitrary standard seems to not have amounted to much. Him and his wife are visiting his estate. I guess he's more accustomed to city life, which is sort of managed by his the family of his ex-wife. That includes his daughter Sonia. Sophia, though, is her. Everybody's got like two names in this. It's just very odd the way that they're. Do you know why that is? There's so many nicknames and like.
It's like a thing with Russian society. My copy came with a note. Like in Russian society, people in the higher classes would affectionately call each other by their French names. So that's why Yelena is Hélène sometimes, and Vanya is Jean, and Sonia is Sophie sometimes.
I think I'll just use like the easiest names for everyone. So I'll be using like Sonia, Yelena, Alexander, Maria, Vanya, Astrov. Waffles for that guy that they call Waffles.
Waffles.
We used to know somebody who used that nickname, and I guess it's just I don't know. Anyway. So, essentially it's, the family of his dead wife, like the mother, the brother, the titular Uncle Vanya, Ivan Petrovich Voynitsky. That one's easy. And then you have, the daughter, his daughter, Sonia, who he seems to have like a weird, distant relationship with. There's also this doctor that visits periodically, Mikhail Astrov. He becomes a pretty major character, but you get the sense that he's just sort of like a guy in town who's sort of grown acquainted with them. But they're visiting this estate essentially to they're living there. They're visiting in the old timey sense where it's been like months and months and months. Alexander is old and has gouts, and Yelena is quite a bit younger and quite a bit prettier, and she's attracted the attention of both the doctor, Astrov, and Uncle Vanya, you know? And they have, you know, they frequently sort of try to, like, pry her from her lifestyle, her marriage to this old, you know, scholar who Vanya at one point had quite a bit of respect for, but he now just views as sort of like a, you know, derelict old fool. You know, they had been friends, and this leads to some, like, conflict between them. Long story short, the tension sort of builds through, like, a lot of very intense language till at one point, you know, tensions kind of erupt, and Vanya takes a shot or two at Alexander after finding out that he plans to sell the estate, which, you know, he owns, but Vanya has been managing, and that's where sort of the crux of the conflict of the story goes. I think at that point I'll probably just cut it. So, you know, I feel like that's enough context to just discuss the like the people and the events.
Yeah, like the whole play could just be summarized as like professor visits the estate of his deceased wife run by her brother and their daughter. They get on each other's nerves and then they leave.
Yeah. Right.
I like how casually you just said takes a shot or two. That's kind of like the
yeah.
like,
I wanted to leave that ambiguous until we really have to, like, land on it. But I guess I got cat's out of the bag now. He literally takes a shot or two at him. You know, pistols drawn. But you know, like, yeah. If
you haven't read it, like, I think the power comes in the language and the
oh, for sure,
the details of the dynamic. So, like, I guess don't worry too much about spoilers, but, like, do yourself the favor. You know, you could technically read it in an hour. Maybe you want to put it down every once in a while and think about your life for a second.
It'd be hard not to.
Yeah.
It'd be hard not to.
But yeah, I think like Hannah got whatever spoiler warnings, Hannah got the most of them out. So actually, you're too late.
Right. Yeah, I think there's one thing I forgot. I forgot to mention that Sonya, the daughter, is very much in love with the doctor, Astrov. He doesn't seem to requite it. Nobody requites anybody's love in this. It's all just yeah. Everybody's just sad.
Longing. It's just like
yeah. Definitely,
like, Astrov's rejection of Sonya is like I mean, I guess they're all sad in their own way, but it's so sad how, like, Astrov doesn't even cross his mind to bother rejecting her. Like, it's like the whole idea just doesn't even count for him.
Yeah, and she's been so, like, open to it. I don't know. Yeah, it sucks. And then, like, her complex about being plain. Oh my god. Very sad.
People always used to say someone was plain.
And she's very upset about being. Everything for her seems to hinge on the fact that she hasn't found a husband. So
yeah, how unfortunate the way they just, like, talk about. Like, I guess, like, it was a time too, and, like, a woman being marriageable, like, directly affected her quote unquote value in society. So it was something people would just talk about openly. Yeah, she's a little plain.
Right, she's unwed. You know what I mean? She's unwed. At one point, they call her unwed.
Mm-hmm.
But
which is a shame because, you know, like reading it, like, she's got such a big heart. Like, she's so sweet.
Yeah. You really want her at least to be happy. Probably the rest of them can kind of all go to hell, maybe. But I don't know. She's done no wrong, in my opinion, other than just care about the people around her.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, maybe she's a little short with the professor at one point, but who wouldn't be? He's probably the biggest blowhard. He's probably, like, the most, like...
Yeah, he seems to have fully shucked her to the side. I mean, this is his daughter, and he's like, yeah, you work on the farm for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That blows. Like, he's like, me and my hot wife are moving to the city. You work on the farm your whole life.
And I don't know if I want to go by order, but, like, I guess while we're on that, with the way that the professor kind of sets it aside, at the end he's like, oh, let's sell this farm that you've been working on all this time. and it was like the farm that was purchased as a dowry for her.
Right.
Which, what a slap in the face.
And it should be noted that he wants to sell it so that he can get like a home in Finland, like a nice chalet or whatever. There's some word they use for it. I can't remember what it is, but like a nice, a nice chalet in Finland, with just him and his hot wife. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's allowed to come. They've been caring for him and his gout this whole time. Like,
I don't know. Maybe that's a bit where like the dark comedy might emerge.
Oh yeah.
But even like there are moments where you can like empathize with him, but
yeah, I guess for me there was like this really surreal moment in the way that it was framed around like Vanya kind of taking his shots at him. And I know we're really talking about the end first, but I know we'll cover all of it. It's just a short narrative. There's not a lot that happens, but I couldn't help but notice that it's like like when Vanya's having his like moment, like his little screaming session, like at the climax of it all, really, like the professor is just confused, and like everyone around him is like, Vanya, stop! Like he isn't spitting straight facts, like there's no like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like. This dude wants to sell the fucking farm and move to Finland with his wife and leave his daughter and her uncle like nowhere to go. It's insane. And the whole time the professor is like, you've lost your mind, dear Vanya. But it's like, no, dude, like, I would be pissed too. Like,
yeah, after all that, Sonia, like, he's like, I can't believe he shot at me. And Sonia doesn't go, that's crazy he shot at you. She was like, you must understand how we feel, father.
Bitch, you looked hungry for bullets. It's insane.
I would love to read his "Am I the Asshole" posts.
Right on Reddit. Yeah.
Like, or if Vanya wrote it, "Am I the asshole for shooting at my asshole brother-in-law?" And so that's one of the ones you think that, oh, he's the asshole, and then like as he explains it, like, oh shit. You're an asshole for missing.
Right. 30 years I have toiled and married on this farm. What do you think his degree's in? So it's got to be something completely useless. Like, what's a useless degree?
Wasn't it like art theory?
Yeah, that's a good one. That is useless. Holy shit. That is useless. Sorry. No, I respect to our art theorists in the audience.
Like Vanya, like comes after him, like he calls it like academic drivel and hot air. Like he says, like he spent most of the time just reading other people talk about art.
When he knows nothing about art.
Yeah, we don't really get any details about the content of whatever he's writing.
It's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the sense that it's just all like superficial, like masturbatory academia with this man.
Well, there's almost a vibe that he was kind of pushed aside from the academic space, and that's how he ended up in the country too.
Right, because they couldn't afford to live in the city.
He's like a Jordan Peterson type.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, like he had like a bright moment, and then
just couldn't.
Disgraced academic. I get it.
You know what? And there's also the bit where, there's also the bit at the, like, I don't know why we're just talking about the end first, but like when he's leaving, his last words to Astrov is like, work, don't idle around.
Oh,
like, give me some advice, clean your room.
Yeah, God, yeah, Jesus. Well, and just like Michaela Peterson, Sonya sure parrots that. Work, and you'll get into heaven. Work. You must become a man.
Sonya feels like comes from a.
No, it comes from a different place.
Like a caring place. Like I know, Jordan Peterson does have like this like messiah complex where he thinks that like he's getting to the young boys who come to me. I know he thinks that, but. Like Sonia feels like a lot more selfless about it, for real.
Yeah. Though as Jordan Peterson continues his all-meat diet, the odds of him getting gout like Alexander increase exponentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that arc for him where he, marries someone and then, disgraces his family.
Finally, something to look forward to.
Right. I mean,
I guess we're gonna do this Memento style with that speech that Vanya gives Sonia at the end, where he's like, "I'm 47," which the way he talks about how old he is, 47 is. I know it's old time, so whatever. Is I'm 47. If I live to be 60, it's 13 more years. How could I live for 13 more years? Like,
sad because no GF.
It's such a sad thing. Like, I guess like a lot of the stuff like revolves around all these people putting all their hopes on Yelena.
Yeah, or more on love in general. I think all these people have this like idea that should they just find this person, they'll be happy. I guess maybe that's exactly what keeps that person out of reach, huh?
I don't know. It's like it's like all these people have kind of like given up on life.
Right.
Like Astrov is interesting because he had this passion about the woods.
Oh yeah.
I guess like as he like descends into depression and into his alcoholism and just into general like hopelessness about everything, hasn't touched his maps or anything. He hasn't really been working on that. He's been like putting his practice to the side once like he developed this crush on Yelena.
Yeah.
Never fall in love with a lady named Helen ever.
Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't make that connection.
Which is kind of part of any criticism that I could lend towards Uncle Vanya. It's kind of in the shadow of some of these Iliadic themes.
Yeah.
Most explicitly in Helen and these conflicts surrounding love over this young wife.
Yeah, I feel like she's like in a way kind of cursed. Like, though she's like young and like typically that's a symbol of life to like everyone around her, she's like acting as like a symbol of death. Like they might not see her that way, but everyone like around her kind of grinds to a halt for her,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that includes like all three primary male characters and then to a degree Sonya as well. And while she's around, like that's just nothing moves, and then with her leaving, things start to move again, and you could say that it's like both of them, right? Like it's her and Alexander, but I think that Alexander is like in a perpetual stasis almost. Like I don't want to like lay too much blame on her because that sounds like a sexist thing or something, and I don't think it is. I think this is just how it's kind of written.
No, I mean that's kind of like what Astrov like puts at her feet at the end when they're about to leave. Yeah, and I guess I didn't really like understand that when I first read it. I just had to like think, like stew on that for a day or two. Like she's almost, she like almost carries this like curse with her or something. But she doesn't seem like a bad person, so it's not like a fault of hers necessarily. But yeah, again, Alexander himself is like this derelict, sort of like failed, academic or what have you. But you have to like wonder, why is he stuck in this state? I mean, even his like, what is it? His sort of hypochondria about his gout or whatever, but it isn't gout. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be like solution oriented, right? And that's because she keeps everyone in the status that's not about solutions. It's about just like wallowing or something, which we certainly see Vanya do very well. Like what is it? It's a lovely day to hang oneself or whatever that line is. So, yeah. Oh my god. I think especially with Vanya, that's a little bit the relationship. No, I guess kind of with Astrov too.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's like, debilitated by like what her options are as a woman and just a sense of like anxiety, like from like all these people putting all these expectations on her. Yeah,
well, she's weird because she doesn't seem to like want to succumb to anyone, right? But she also doesn't seem to want to succumb to herself, Like you get the sense that pretty sincerely she doesn't really want to be with Alexander. I mean, doesn't she say at one point to Sonya that her love was like illusory?
Yeah. Like she said that she thought she loved him at first.
Yeah. But you get the sense that she doesn't want to be there anymore, but she also doesn't really want to, like, just doesn't necessarily want to give herself up to, like, Astrov or Vanya either. And she does have some confession of feelings towards Astrov at the end, but even those are, like, restrained, I feel. Like, it's not wholehearted. She's like, yeah, I should admit that I did maybe fancy a little bit, But
yeah.
You get the sense that what she wants is to just be free of probably all of them. But
a little bit. I think I want to like differentiate a little bit, but you could make a case that it's this way for either of them. But super highbrow comparison, I know, like BoJack Horseman and Diane.
Oh yeah,
where they would kind of like enable each other's like pity.
Right.
Like I think like Vanya is like he is a sensitive guy. Like even he's aware of like how like sensitive and smart he was. Like even though he wasn't in the academia, like he did read all of the professor's articles and have like an enthusiasm for.
What did he say? He said I could have been the next Dostoevsky or something like.
Yeah. He could have been Schopenhauer, Dostoevsky.
Yeah, Schopenhauer. That was it. Yeah. It's a bold claim.
Which also, I guess, goes to show like who does he hold up as the pinnacle of thought, if not like the most like pessimistic and neurotic writers. And
bro, we're in Russia. That just comes with the territory.
That's true. That's true.
Well, go ahead. I don't want to change topics like immediately. I just had a funny thought.
No, that's quite. I kind of lost the train.
Well, I was just thinking that like there was no initial mention of the gun. Like it just started with the gun being shot. Like Chekov's gun wasn't in. Right? Like there was no. It's just the first mention of the gun was the gunshot.
Damn, that's true. That's so funny.
Yeah, here I am reading Chekov for the first time ever, and he botches the gun thing. Like, what is
your
this?
own gun?
What is this? Come on, man.
Yeah, I guess this is a play that starts very like in the middle of things. Like the professor and Elena are already deep into their stay in the country. Like it starts with Astrov. Yeah. Like how long have we known each other? 11 years. They're already deep into this decline, all of them.
Right.
The prequel to this, Brother Vanya, that's when the gun is mentioned.
Right. Yeah, Brother Vanya, yeah. It's just like one day Ivan went and bought a gun. That one was lost to time. Actually, so the gun was put on the mantle in the Wood Demon, but it was scrapped when he reworked it for. But the gun was still there. You know what I mean? So it, you know how it works.
Yeah, it's like it's a kill your darlings thing. Yeah, so like I think like Yelena is unhappy, and Vanya has such a like an eloquent and precise way of being able to put into words how someone's unhappy. It seems like they get along, even if she doesn't reciprocate like his feelings for her. Yeah,
they seem like friends. Do you know what I mean? Not to like friend zone Uncle Vanya, but like they seem like friends. They seem like they could have been close.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm gonna like say like the most shallow version of like what the love could be. Like I think Vanya is just like full of like resentment and disappointment about like the life he's wasted.
Yeah.
Like he did it all in support of the professor who turned out to not be all that.
Yeah, classic Jordan Peterson.
Right, yeah, he did put everything into Professor Serebrikov's Patreon and
he bought him pounds and pounds of elk meat or whatever.
And like with Yelena, like he talked about like how he was disappointed that he didn't make a move on her when she was 17.
Yeah, damn. Really a misstep.
But it's also, I'm guessing it was from a time when he was a better man and didn't just want like a woman to be a vessel for all of his feelings.
Back then he would have been a more appropriate age, which would have been 37.
And Yelena gets along with him, and I think it's a friendship that's like an enduring one because she's aware of how he used to be, and I'm sure he was like a great guy to be around. Like he actually did run the estate out of a sense of love and duty and admiration, like all that.
Right.
Astrov is an interesting case around Yelena. I don't know if like you want to talk more about like the titular Uncle Vanya. I'm sure there's just like layers that we could peel away. Like Astrov is an interesting case where he had his own project that he is setting aside. Like Vanya is a dream deferred completely. Like he didn't even let himself have a dream. He did everything in support of someone else's.
Right.
So he has this chronic like hoping someone else will be his happiness. Astrov is so strange that he like he has that thing with the forest. It's a thing that Yelena clearly isn't interested in.
Yeah. I love the thing with the forests. So
yeah, no, like if we can like maybe I'll like leaf through it, but
we're gonna have to talk about climate change eventually here.
yeah. Yeah, and I think there's like a lot to the forests thing too, as a thing about dreams, about like
oh yeah,
like having this hope to have efforts that create good that outlives you.
Right.
Yeah, but like what was his like pitch to Yelena at the end? Like when they're about to leave, it's like why don't you stay? Like your melancholy like is gonna catch up to you, and that could be in Kharkov or it could be here with the forests, where it could be like out of a Turgenev novel or something.
Yeah,
like that's a very like sad pitch to give someone. But I don't know if it's like a romantic notion. Like Yelena like laughs with Sonia when she finally gets to say that she's unhappy. So I don't know if it's like and she is attracted to Astrov, and she brings up the speech that Vanya gives about her being a mermaid when it comes to the idea of reciprocating Astrov's feelings. So I don't know if it's like the appeal of just like this pure romanticism, like whether it's for this ideological notion of the woods or at least an embrace of a doomed love.
Yeah.
Which is that's something interesting about Astrov. Like even when he's sad, like he goes so he embraces it so fully.
Right. Yeah, gosh. Some of that like language about ecological destruction was like really like getting to me. Like not like psychologically, just like wow, this is like just so ahead of its time. Or just make this about doomer shit again. But I really like but I like the way it runs parallel to like the disintegration of their dreams, and then also in a way like the disintegration of their kind of relationships, you know? Like in a way this like thriving like home that they've built in each other as well as in these woods is turning into, you know, brown
and
dead countryside.
Right, and like the way that they say that the woods like fill the spirit and like make people kinder to one another and all that.
Right.
Like the house itself was like this dying symbol of love. Like it was purchased as a dowry, even if they didn't have enough, right? Then Vanya, out of his love, gave up his inheritance and toiled for 10, 15, 20 years.
Poor Vanya.
And the professor then is like, well, we could get more we could get more dividends if we just sold it.
Oh yeah. So me and my hot wife are gonna move to Finland. Y'all can fuck off.
But like the professor's someone who's like just not sensitive to all this pain that's happening, like all this decay that's surrounding him, even as his own body's like causing him all this pain.
Oh yeah, well that's as we said before. He can't even figure out what the pain is. Is it gout or is it rheumatism? But
and it's like whatever it is, it's just the opposite of what the doctor tells him. Yeah,
I was just say, doesn't Astrov say like pretty like solidly at one point? He's like, yeah, he's got gout. He just he's being a shithead, huh?
Yeah, and like don't call me. I say he's got gout. He says it's rheumatism. I tell him to sit down. He walks around.
Right.
The forests and the house, like it's a great externalization of like the state of these people's souls and relationships.
Right.
But it's it's also like it's crazy. Like you just found like this metaphor that was right there, like in reality, because he's not wrong about the woods.
Yeah, gosh. We need more woods. We need to go to the woods.
Let me find the. I don't remember if it was when he's talking to Sonia in the second act, or if it's when they're talking, or when he's showing Yelena his maps.
Which specific quote are you talking about, like the ecological destruction thing? Because I think that was Act 1.
I'm talking about the time that he's talking about like why he thinks it happens, about people just like grasping for what they can when they feel desperation.
Right. God.
I was wondering if like anyone, like if that stood out to everyone. Like it didn't hit me until later, that speech, when I was thinking like that's kind of what everyone's doing. Like they're like the professor maybe selling off the house could be that, just like wants to give dignity to his last days. Or Vanya and Astrov a little bit, like, you know, like grasping at Yelena. I found the quote. It's when he's explaining it to Yelena in Act 3.
Oh, gotcha.
I can understand if in place of the trees we destroyed, we had something. If there were communities, jobs, schools, then people might be better off. But none of that happened. We still have the same swamps, the same mosquitoes, the same poverty, the same diseases. What we're seeing here is the result of uncontrolled struggle for survival. A man is freezing, hungry, sick, trying to save what's left of his life, trying to take care of his children. So what does he do? He lets instinct take over. He grabs whatever he thinks will feed him and keep him warm. He destroys everything around him without a thought for the future. It's almost all gone already, and there's nothing to replace it.
God. That shit is like so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Kind of blows my mind, actually.
Right.
1899.
Yeah, he frames it as like these like this petty desperation. Like there's not the larger thing of, you know, of corporations just like finding what the cheapest way is of getting the most value out of every bit of land that they can. You could like read that into Uncle Vanya. I don't know like how politically plugged in Chekov was. You know, like the revolution right around the corner. I don't know how much aware of that he was.
The mother, like a feminist or something? Isn't the mother?
Yeah,
like
the mom.
Yeah. She's a very. I kind of forgot about that. But she's a feminist, and she's like a.
She's like reading pamphlets all day. Yeah.
Yeah. Very 1890 Russia of her.
Yeah. So there, I don't know if we want to read. Like, I don't know, like what she does in her free time. To read that about the pamphlets being like empty preoccupation, like simply just consuming all these opinions, and like I don't know if that's me like reading like modern whatever like discourse or into it.
Yeah, I was watching a Vosh stream right before this. You better not.
That's a modern day equivalent. Yeah, like the appeal of radicalism is that you think that you're subverting everything. You think that you're like Neo seeing through the Matrix, and suddenly you're like flying above everything, not bound to all the rules.
Right. Oh, that's a good meme you just sent, Corbin. That really applies. I'll read this because it's relevant to those who cannot see. It's a picture of Calvin of Calvin and Hobbes. And he's standing on a log, and he says, "We seem to understand the value of oil, timber, minerals, and housing, but not the value of unspoiled beauty, wildlife, solitude, and spiritual renewal," echoing the words of our Astrov. So,
damn, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna. So in terms of whatever like political action, like it used to be at least for Astrov political action in itself when he would actually go out and plant trees. But then it just becomes this thing that's like this little flag that he's got like sticking out of him that is just like I don't know, like a signal for connection, like an SOS for bonding, that Sonia picks up. Like I think like the first like big speech about the environment is Sonia like getting too excited talking about the things that Astrov says that are so beautiful. And it is a speech that's very similar to that, about like the value of unspoiled beauty and all that.
right.
and like Astrov has his moments, like clearly like that soul is still there, but he doesn't bring it up until he's like trying to show Yelena his things, like just like as like I don't know, like a pretense for flirting.
Right.
But it's so interesting. Like I feel like the degree to which he's given up, or I don't know. Like I think it's interesting that he knows, he realizes, he stops mid monologue, like that bit I read. Like the very next line is like he cools off and is like, "Oh, you don't actually care about any of this, do you?"
Right. But what does Yelena care about? Do you know what I mean? I don't think there's much he could have brought up to her that would have captured her interest. She seems just adrift, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like at that moment that she was in her life, like the only thing that really got her attention was having the attention of Astrov.
You know, I gotta say, I was thinking about this, and having seen Drive My Car, I'm surprised that there wasn't more actual adultery in this. Like, I was ready for some like actual cheating on people, because Drive My Car delivered in that respect. But
but it's crazy because yeah, Drive My Car is really so crazy because yeah, it has that big departure. Like Uncle Vanya has a story where Helena is tragically loyal to her husband, so it's like the very opposite. But there's still so much emotion that applies.
Yeah.
Like all those scenes where he's like reading the lines of Uncle Vanya, and it's exactly what's happening to him emotionally at that moment.
Yeah. There was a second, right, where I wish I remembered what I was thinking when I had this thought, or like what context it was in. But you know how in the movie he gives the role of Uncle Vanya in the play that he directs to the guy who he gives the guy that's, you know, with his wife that role, you know. And there was a moment in reading Uncle Vanya where like I connected it, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, I bet that's what he wanted him to know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the message he sent in giving him that role, you know. But I can't remember what the line was. Now for the life of me, I should have like noted it or something.
The first line I remember, coming off of Drive My Car is when Uncle Vanya talks about. Oh no, Uncle Vanya's talking about being jealous of the professor for being such a Don Juan with women.
Oh yeah, I do recall that. Which he's such a Don Juan, but he's like 65 and has gout. Like, yeah, right. Sounds hot.
It's all these former conquests. Like, it's just like this piling on of resentment.
Right.
And of course, there's the one prize that he's
Yelena, yeah.
Yeah.
T-shirt that says "Cremation is my last hope for a smoking hot body." Random thing I just saw on the internet. Anyway.
I'd read it.
Yeah. I feel like that's easy for you to say, Corbin. You're, relatively speaking, you're pretty buff.
No. I don't do shit.
You do something.
No, I don't lift. I'm not buff.
This is Uncle Vanya talking to Yelena. Like, you're a mermaid. You should be swimming with the naiads. Is
that what I'm saying to Corbin? Yeah, Corbin, you're a buff guy. You should be snapping towels in the locker room. I don't know. What the fuck? What? Is that what I sound like? Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that.
He was like, yeah, it's there.
Corbin, you're buff. Why aren't you playing football with the football players?
I've always wanted to.
When Sonia says to Yelena, you could do anything. You could teach. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just go out and teach?
Pretty reasonable range of aspirations. Teacher, mermaid. Yeah. Mermaid that teaches.
There's a, like, you know, there's a truth. Like, he's obviously speaking in, like, a very, like, you know, heightened poetic kind of sense when he's talking about the mermaid thing. But it's funny, like, it's like this idealized thing that he prescribes to her. Yeah, and Sonia's is like you're in a rut, basically. Like, you know, try, you know, applying yourself to something.
Yeah, I like the way that she described teaching isn't so hard if you just try it. Like,
especially at that time, there wasn't that many things to know.
If Alexander can do it, she can do it.
Especially if Alexander can do it.
yeah, Alexander's useless.
I think it's telling that his dream when he's like, when he wakes up in Act 2, he's like, he had a dream that his legs weren't his own. And in a sense, yeah, like he's been carried his whole life.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even catch that. But that's good.
What a loser.
All right, so what do we think of, I feel like we're winding towards the end here. What do we think of Waffles? What do we think of Waffles? Yeah, is Waffles just there to be like the dumb idiot? What the fuck is an impoverished landowner? Sorry. A Maoist moment.
Right, it was like Waffles, like his uncle sold the land, right, to Uncle Vanya's family.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
And I guess like he came with it, like he inherited like the financial decisions of the people that came before him.
Yeah, so now he just like lives there with them as a shithead, an ugly man. Like that's his.
Yeah, it's so sad that he puts himself down to like, you get one moment where like he's in the town, but like someone in the town was making fun of him, like he's and they're calling him lazy or something, and like the man's like, no, you work. But I guess it's like most like whatever work he does, like I bet like a large chunk of it is I know that's not what emotional labor means, but Waffles, like a lot of the work he does is like play a polka for the people who are sad in their house.
Right.
It's like stroke ego and even out everyone's mood.
What other minor characters can we touch on? There was Nyanya. Or what's her name? Marina?
Marina.
Though I like Nyanya because it sounds like how cat noises are in anime.
I don't remember like her having many scenes except for when she's soothing the professor. Is that her?
I feel like there were like but I feel like there were like 10 times where Sonya would like run over to her and be like, "Oh, Nyanya, oh, poor Nyanya." She'd just be sitting there though, usually like knitting or something.
She's like, she must have like done more to raise her than the professor.
Oh, okay, that would follow. That would follow because I was like, why is this character included if they're just going to be there to knit? But that does make sense.
The fact they seem to get like. I don't know. They all have a relationship that's constructive and taking care of the house. It doesn't seem like they're pulling rank on each other ever. And like when the professor and Elena are about to leave, like she's saying like things are gonna settle down. We'll all go back to work.
Yeah, I feel like we got to talk about like the ending speech. Is there anything we haven't gotten to other than that?
I feel like we've talked around Sonya and Yelena's relationship, but
yeah, my thought about it was like they have that like sort of antagonistic but then allies relationship that I feel like is, I don't know, it seems like a pretty typical probably female relationship arc in like a story until they sort of have that moment where they're like, okay, well, let's just you and I be friends now and like open up to each other, you know.
It's a tough relationship to be in, at least their context. Like I can't imagine Sonya's that much younger than Helena.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like, even though they're friends, like I don't think they compete so much. But I get the sense that there's like, like a disparity in attractiveness between them, obviously, and I think it probably like plays into the dynamic between them a bit, Like, Sonya asks sort of Yelena for like help in like the ways of like love and that, which, is then complicated by the fact that the exact man that she's referring to is deeply in love with Yelena, as seemingly everyone is.
That's like the saddest bit.
Yeah. So I guess like to circle like way back to the beginning of our discussion, when we talk about like Sonya being plain, I think there's that like second element where even though she sort of befriends Yelena, she's like constantly comparing herself to her, and how could you not when like seemingly everybody else is like come to a standstill in their life over this 27-year-old woman,
including her father.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird to have like your old dad have like such a young wife.
Yeah, she was maybe the saddest character I felt, because she had the like best intentions and just like the worst like outcome. But that probably leads well into us talking about her kind of final speech there.
I mean, I don't have it pulled up. She has such an optimism that in the end it'll all work out and she'll get her justice.
Yeah, I don't know that speech read like optimism to me. I mean, I think it did in a way. You know what I mean? But like not in a way that like leads to any like derivable happiness. You know,
right?
Say, like,
well, it's not happiness in this context. It's happiness after she's dead.
Right, but how do you live that way? I guess what I'm saying is I don't get the sense that like the suffering ends with that line. Like I don't get the sense that she's saying much to like lighten Vanya's heart in this moment, because that's what she's attempting to do or whatever. What she's rather doing is kind of like yanking back the curtain on their situation as a whole.
I think like it's I don't know, a soft humorism, I guess. It's basically we're not destined for any happiness while we live. Maybe in the next life.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's how I read it. Like, yeah, right. Like the Protestant dream. Like, let's just suffer until God makes us happy somehow.
Yeah.
In death.
I think it's like the one positive thing I think that could maybe be is that there is value in the work that they're doing, in the house that they're keeping up, and the life they have with each other. I think maybe combined with how she, walked him off the edge of suicide.
Yeah, I guess it does retain like a little bit of like the essence of Jordan Peterson's best point, and it's that you'll probably be happier if you clean your room from time to time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that one grain.
That one kernel of truth, right? Yeah, like it does one good to get their shit together sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you've been wallowing in like depression for 6 months or however long the visit of Alexander and Yelena was.
But it's also like especially it's something that Vanya needs to Vanya's something that it's something he's aware of. I'm sure like he's had work be an escape, because right after like they take the morphine, like he says to Sonia, like, I need to do some work. I need to focus on something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But then like when Sonia like gives that little speech at the end, I've got it pulled up ready to read one.
Oh yeah, let's just throw that in.
Yeah, I guess I'll let me see if I'll just read it and see if I still have the thought when we read it. But it seems like a plan for like a more of a zooming out, like, okay, today we can work, but what's the rest of it look like?
Right. Well, like when I think in like a personal sense about like why, when I'm throwing myself into work to like overcome a problem, it's a way of like expending energy, not of solving the problem. It's a way to get out the zoomies that the anxiety causes indirectly. So it's like one can only work for so long.
Okay. So Vanya says to Sonia, strokes her hair, "I'm so unhappy, dear. If you only knew how unhappy I am." Sonia, "I know, but we have to go on living." Pause. So I'm reading the stage directions because I don't know performance. You and I, Uncle Vanya, we have to go on living. The days will be slow and the nights will be long, but we'll take whatever fate sends us. We'll spend the rest of our lives doing other people's work for them. We won't know a minute's rest, and then when our time comes, we'll die. And when we're dead, we'll say that our lives were full of pain, and that we wept and suffered, and God will have pity on us. And then, Uncle, dear Uncle Vanya, we'll see a brand new life, all shining and beautiful. We'll be happy, and we'll look back on the pain we feel right now and we'll smile. And then we'll rest. I believe that, Uncle. I believe that with all my heart and soul. Kneels down by Vanya and puts her head in his hands wearily. Then we'll rest. Telegin plays softly. We'll rest. We'll hear the angels singing. We'll see the diamonds of heaven, and all our earthly woes will vanish in a flood of compassion that overwhelms the world. And then everything will be calm, quiet, gentle as a loving hand. Wipes away his tears with her handkerchief. Poor Uncle Vanya, you're crying. Almost in tears herself. I know how unhappy your life has been, but wait a while, just a little while, Uncle Vanya, and you and I will rest. Embraces him. We will. I know we will. We'll rest. I know we will.
That does not read like optimism to me. I mean, she maybe is optimistic, but not in a way that I can lend any legitimacy to, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the tone of the story isn't.
It seems pity from God in the end.
I don't think God is implied to have much pity. How do I put this?
You could read this as like as the end of a very, very dark comedy, where like if everyone has flaws, like Sonia's is just like kind of this doormat quality. Like given a few years too, like since she's younger, like maybe given a few years, she'll be just as bitter as Vanya is. Like she doesn't realize the value of the life that she's throwing away.
I guess it's like to me, it presents no solution to their problems, right? Like, if they've all been waiting for, like, a solution in another person that will just make everything better, then, like, what are they doing now? Like, you know? Like, let's wait for God to make us happy in death. Like, it's just the same thing.
Yeah. I guess, like, what just happened was that all these things that they could hang their hopes on before, like, all these illusions that they had, are now stripped away. So now all they have is the rest of their lives to deal with.
Yeah. Sad ending. Sad book. Sad play.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to shout out like just one moment of like pure comedy.
Mm-hmm.
There's this one like funny moment where Sonia and Yelena like have this coming together, and Sonia's like, "Can you play for me? Can you play piano for me?" And Yelena's like, "Ask your father. He gets very upset at night if it's okay if I play the piano." And it's this moment I think, oh yes, Yelena gotta come out of her shell and all that, and Sonia goes away. Yelena gives this monologue, and then when Sonia comes back, it's like he said no, and that's like act break.
Oh yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I didn't see that as a joke, but now that you say it is a joke, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of funny. I don't know. I thought it just like contributed to the overall tone of things. It's just like a overbearingly negative. Yeah, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like,
and I kind of when I was reading it, it kind of read as a punchline a little bit.
Like it had that feeling, you know, like the other shoe had dropped, you know, but it didn't feel like a pun. It felt more like I don't know, like if it was a punchline, then the joke was like sick, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it's like a super
sense.
Dry. It's super.
Yeah. Right. Which I mean, that's the point of it, obviously, but I took it on its face, like more directly as like, oh yeah, he just doesn't he does not want that. He doesn't want to be bothered. He is this old guy with this reasonable attitude towards music or whatever.
Yeah, the supposed like art guy has like no patience for art.
He wants to read about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If I was to be watching that as a play, like if it's supposed to like be a joke, I feel like the way to play it would be. It's supposed to land like a dead body. Like I don't think it's it's supposed to be like a big laugh line.
See, I took it almost as like dramatically meaningful in like a despairing way. Do you know what I mean? Like on top of everything else you said now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I guess that's how
I guess like the way they say that like horror and comedy like kind of rely on the same principles, like drama and a punchline and a gut punch are not too far away. I don't mean that as just a pun.
That's definitely true.
What was it two genres before? It was either always a tragedy or a comedy back then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if a tragedy ends with like...
You forgot about the third one, mockumentaries.
But anyways, not to belabor the comedy thing, you brought up the ending and it made me think like the way it ends is like the saddest, like back to normal. Like it's The Simpsons back at the couch.
Well, right. But straight up, I think that's why Vanya's crying. Like, again, this last scene I'm taking with, like, no optimism. I think he's crying because he realizes she's, like, in some way, like, if that's all there is, then what's the point? Like, suicide would have been better.
Jeez.
Oops, sorry, guys. Not to end on a sad note.
But there's, like, one aspect like, so about Sonia's speech that I'm thinking of now is the sea of compassion that she talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That like some divine witness will make beauty out of the suffering.
Oh yeah, it's very Wallace Stevens over. Yeah, I was just thinking of a poem. That's all right.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Like, if you want to find it.
Yeah, it's only tangentially related. I some other time.
The freshman English paper thing I might throw out now is, you know, in a sense, there is a divine witness. Like, this suffering has been rendered into art by Chekhov to be for, you know, an
Viewers like
audience
you.
for the viewers at home.
Right.
You know, and then with the professor being an art critic, like, maybe there's like, beauty is talked about a lot, and so, like, maybe there is some redemption in beauty, and you can see, like, the limits of that certainly in this play, or like in the lives of the people in this play.
Right, my girl Plane.
Yeah, unfortunately. So she is like finding beauty in her suffering. It's like a very like Christian concept.
Ugh.
But yeah, if I wanted like to expand it a little bit, maybe it's just in general, like, we want to be seen by others. Like, her, like, with her pain with Astrov isn't just that he rejects her love, is that he sees right through her, in her own words. And Astrov, oh no, sorry, and Vanya, right? Like, with the bit we read, he's like, if only you knew how sad I am. I don't know how optimistic it is, but at the very least, like, you know, like, Sonia at least like has a hint. You know, she at least like can make a pretty good guess about how sad he is, given that they have to live the same sad life together. But at least they can each appreciate it in one another.
Right.
I keep going back to, I think, like, my favorite scene, I guess I keep bringing it up, is Yelena and Sonia. Sonia asks Yelena if she's happy, and she says no, and that's when they start laughing together. And she's like, I don't know why I'm so happy.
Right.
All right, so did we do an Uncle Vanya then?
I feel like we did an Uncle Vanya. This was a good one. Brutal.
Yeah. If it wasn't for like the emotional toll it might take, I'd be tempted to be like, let's just like run through all of Chekhov's output. Like, he doesn't have that much, so we could conceivably do it.
Oh yeah, no, that felt a little bit like self-harm to read that in like a day and a half. that was hardcore.
Hopefully, I'm trying to take it as like a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very least, I don't know. At the very least, maybe I want a life that if that would be worthy of someone's compassion, instead of being like, oh, this is mid.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to not be so plain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did an Uncle Vanya.
Right.
If you're out there, you can comment on YouTube. You can send us an email at eveningspleasant@gmail.com. We're going to be switching to a bi-weekly schedule. Hopefully, I think this will be a good way for us to be able to get like go more in depth into like larger chunks of.
Honestly, it'll allow us to tackle more ambitious projects as well. Like, I see no reason not to mention that we're like sort of planning on, you know, doing something with House of Leaves, but in order to do that, we need to be able to like put out things and then also read that in the background. I see no harm in saying that. Also, because it's exciting. House of Leaves is cool, but obviously it's very dense and very difficult. So we want to just be able to approach that with as much, you know, energy as we have.
Yeah, I want to make a good show out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, like, comment, subscribe. This has been Roberto
and Hannah
and Corbin signing off.
All right, have a pleasant evening.
Yeah, he said the thing.
Yeah.
House of the Mind, that's right.